This happened just a couple of months ago. I was 33 and recently moved to an old farmhouse on the outskirts of town. I thought it would be a peaceful change from my busy life as a veterinarian. The house felt perfect, despite the overgrown fields and the old chicken coop. It looked abandoned, but I thought I could fix things up. Little did I know what was waiting for me. At first everything was fine. I unpacked boxes and adjusted to my new home. But then I heard it one night, a soft scratching sound mixed with clucking coming from the coop. I figured it was just the hens settling down. After all, they were in a new place. But as the nights passed, the sounds became more frequent and frantic. It felt weird, but I tried to ignore it. It was probably just the wind or my imagination, right? However, I'd lie in bed, listening to that clucking and whispers that seemed to float in through the chilly air. The atmosphere felt thick, like something was just off. I would swear I caught movement near the coop. Each time my heart raced. I felt foolish for being scared. I tried to shake off the feeling, but the air around that coop felt different. One night I decided to investigate. I grabbed my flashlight and walked toward the coop. The door was slightly open, creaking with the wind. I hesitated. I told myself it was silly to be scared, but my hands shook as I pushed the door open. Inside it was just dirt and straw. The chickens were huddled together, wide-eyed and pacing nervously. They seemed to sense something I couldn't. I took a step back, uneasy. The next few nights were a blur of strange noises. The whispers grew louder, creeping into the corners of my mind. I started noting the times down, like it would help me figure it out. Then one night, while staring out the window, I saw a shadow dart past the coop. I felt my heart drop. I almost called out, but I froze. Nothing moved. The chill of dread washed over me. It felt like someone was there, hiding in the darkness. What was happening? I thought about calling the previous owner. But what would I say? Instead, I stood there, my heart racing. When I turned back, the coop seemed darker, but emptier. Yet that feeling of being watched lingered. Then it happened again. The frantic clucking erupted in the night, a terrible noise that made my blood run cold. I needed to know what was hiding in the coop. Despite my fear, I took a step forward. I had to face it. I had to find out what was making those sounds. Each night drew me nearer, deeper into the mystery. With every sound, the questions pounded in my head. I didn't know what was there, but I felt I had to uncover the truth. What awaited me behind that old door? Something told me I wasn't alone, and I had to know why. The following night I lay awake, heart racing as the sounds began again, clucking and scratching filling my room. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my flashlight and slipped into my shoes. I was determined. Whatever was hiding in that coop, I would confront it. As I stepped outside, the cool night air hit me, sending a shiver down my spine. The moon cast a pale light over the yard, and I took tentative steps towards the coop. Each crunch of gravel underfoot felt amplified in the stillness. I stopped at the door, now ajar, and took a deep breath. When I pushed it open, the hinges creaked, protesting the intrusion. I scanned the inside with my flashlight. The straw looked disturbed, but no sign of what had been causing those noises. The chickens were still, their eyes wide and watching me. There was something unsettling in the silence. I turned to leave when something caught my eye in the corner. Movement. Instinctively, I turned the light towards it. It was a wooden crate, half hidden in the shadows. I didn't remember seeing it before, and my gut twisted with unease. I approached cautiously, my heart pounding as I reached for it. Just as I was about to tug at the rope securing it, a loud bang echoed from behind me. The door slammed shut. Panic surged through me. I spun around, the flashlight beam flickering wildly. My breath quickened as I tried to push the door open, but it wouldn't budge. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky. The only answer was the frantic clucking from the chickens. I felt foolish, calling out in the dark. but there was something primal in my gut urging me to scream, to run. Instead, I forced myself to focus on the crate. With a final push, it tipped over, spilling its contents onto the ground. My breath caught as I saw what lay there. Old photographs, eerie and faded. Faces stared up at me, their smiles unsettling. I reached down to pick one up, eager to find out who these people were. As I examined it, I felt a sudden gust of wind whip through the coop, making the photographs flutter in my hands. The door, seemingly locked, began to groan ominously. I looked over my shoulder. The door was still shut, but I felt it. Something was shifting behind me. I dropped the photo and turned. My flashlight flickered, casting long shadows that danced on the walls. Then, from the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse. A figure, dark and fleeting, darting past the coop windows. Adrenaline surged through me. I threw myself at the door, my shoulder slamming into it, but it wouldn't yield. "Let me out," I screamed, panic flooding my voice. Rattling the door, I felt the presence behind me grow closer. That's when I saw it, a face peering through the window, just for a heartbeat, before disappearing into the night air. My heart sank, and I knew I wasn't alone in the darkness. I needed to escape. I had to know what was happening. The whispers returned, chilling and haunting. They echoed in my mind as I banged on the door, desperate for freedom. I couldn't stay here anymore. What had I awakened? What was going to happen next? The darkness pressed in on me as I scrambled back from the door. My heart raced and my hands trembled. I couldn't just wait here for whatever that was to reveal itself. I darted back to the crate, hoping to find something useful among the scattered photographs. I rummaged frantically through the pile, but all I found were more of those strange smiling faces. Then something hard caught my hand, a small key. It was rusty and cold, but my skin tingled at its touch. Could this be the key to the door, or to something else? I quickly pocketed the key and glanced at the window again. Was that movement? I couldn't tell, but a dark shape seemed to meld with the shadows outside watching me. A shiver coursed down my spine. Fear threatened to swallow me whole, but I couldn't let it. I had to find a way out. "Come on," I whispered to myself, half a mantra, half a plea. I focused on what was real. The door was still shut, but I might have a chance if I could get the key into the lock. I hurried back to the door, adrenaline coursing through me. I knelt down and examined the lock, my flashlight beam steady. I inserted the key, hands shaking as I turned it. It clicked, but the door didn't budge. My heart sank. "No, no, no," I whispered, panic creeping back in. I pushed against the door harder, yelling, "Open!" Then I heard it, the soft padding of footsteps behind me. I whipped around, flashlight beam slicing through the darkness. There it was again. That fleeting shadow, now closer. It felt like it was watching me, waiting. The air turned thick, suffocating. I stumbled back towards the door, still holding the key in my trembling hand. I pushed again, desperation taking over as I pulled the door handle. To my shock, it swung open slightly, caught by the chain on the other side. I could see outside, but there was no escaping just yet. There was that figure again, now just beyond the edge of the coop. I couldn't make out any features, and all I felt was dread. I took a deep breath. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice shaky. No answer. Just silence mixed with the frantic rustle of the chickens. My instinct told me to get the hell out, but curiosity held me in place, a magnet pulling me to the danger. Then I heard it. A low whisper, barely audible, but it sent chills down my spine. It didn't sound human. It felt old, like an echo from the past. "They're coming. They're all coming." I stared wide-eyed into the night. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. I couldn't understand. Who were they? My breath quickened. I felt the cold dread of being trapped, not just in the coop, but in this tangled web of shadows and whispers. I had to make a choice. Should I call for help or take a leap into the unknown? Just as I decided to call for my dad, the whisper returned, now louder and more insistent. You must leave before they come. Then everything went dark, swallowed by the night as the coop door swung wide, revealing the vast unknown beyond. The moment the door swung open, I was hit with a rush of cool night air. It felt almost alive, swirling around me, beckoning me to step outside. My instincts screamed at me to run, to escape the imminent dread that tangled in the shadows. But something rooted me to the spot. A mix of fear and curiosity tugged at my heart. Beyond the door, the moon hung high, casting an eerie silver light over the yard. The chickens were restless, their soft clucks almost sounding alarmed. I squinted into the darkness outside. The figure I'd seen seemed to have vanished, but I sensed it lurking nearby, just out of view. Maybe it just wants to help, I whispered to myself, trying to convince myself that the unknown was not a threat. But deep down, I knew that was a lie. The whisper had gotten louder, more insistent as it urged me to leave. I reluctantly stepped outside, the cold ground biting into my bare feet. With each step, I peered toward the tree line at the edge of the yard. The branches twisted like skeletal fingers, and I felt something watching me from behind their shadows. Hello? My voice trembled, echoing into the silence. No answer came, just the low rustle of leaves. I took a few more cautious steps, the flashlight flickering unsteadily now. Suddenly a chill cut through the air, sending goosebumps racing down my arms. I had to keep moving. Then I heard it. A faint rustling sound, not far from where I stood. My heart fluttered wildly, and I swung the flashlight towards the noise. It illuminated the darkness, revealing only empty space. But then something caught my attention. Just at the edge of the light, half hidden behind a thick bush, there was something shiny. Curiosity bloomed and I moved closer, the whispers in my head urging caution. As I knelt down, I realized I was staring at a small weathered box. It was covered in dirt, but I could make out strange symbols etched into the wood. My hand trembled as I reached to touch it, a soft thrumming sound pulsing from within. "What are you?" I muttered, feeling the weight of something heavy in the air. My heart raced as I thought of what secrets it might hold. Suddenly I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps again, much closer this time. Panic surged through me. My instincts screamed at me to run, but a part of me was rooted to the spot, drawn to the mysterious box and the shadows that danced just beyond the trees. That's when I saw it, a figure emerging from the darkness. It was tall, draped in tattered cloth, and its features were obscured, like smoke swirling in a restless breeze. It stood still, just watching. "Leave, child," it whispered in a voice that swirled through the night like a haunting melody. "Before they find you." Every hair on my body stood on end. I wanted to bolt, but I felt trapped, as if the darkness was pulling me in. I glanced back at the box, my mind racing with what could be inside. I had to make a decision. Would I confront this entity or run, leaving the secrets of the coop behind forever? Frozen with uncertainty, I hesitated, caught between the mysterious figure and the whispering box. Then I took a step forward, driven by a force I couldn't explain. I stepped closer to the figure, my heart racing. The shadows around it seemed to shift, alive and restless, yet I couldn't tear my gaze away. The air grew colder as I approached. "What do you mean, before they find me?" I asked, my voice barely rising above a whisper. The figure remained still, its face obscured, but the intensity in its stance felt palpable. "They are drawn to your light," it hissed softly, glancing towards the box. "You must not open it." I felt a rush of confusion. Was it a warning or a threat? I looked back at the box, half buried in the grass. The thrumming inside it intensified, almost as if it was responding to the figure's words. My instincts wrestled for control. Part of me wanted to flee, to drop everything and sprint back into the house. But another part was stronger, a need to understand. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice steadier than I felt. "I am a guardian," it replied, the words slithering into the chill of the night. "It is my duty to protect against what lies within." The figure gestured vaguely toward the box. "I don't even know what's in there," I protested. "How can it be a threat?" But as I said it, doubt crept in. What if there was something terrible hidden inside? The warnings of strange noises and restless whispers flashed through my mind, and I recalled the stories from the village, the ones about cursed objects and the dark corners of the woods. The figure stepped closer, the fabric it wore billowing in the night wind. "You must trust me. The past is alive in that box. It carries burdens best left forgotten." I felt a rush of emotions, fear, confusion, and a strange kind of anger for being dragged into this fear-laden night. "But I need to know," I stammered. "What do you mean by the light? What will happen if I don't open it?" "Your fate is entwined with that box," it replied, a note of urgency creeping into its voice. "For every secret you unearthed, something else might awaken. They will hear you, and they will come." I could sense the weight of its warning. I glanced around, half expecting some unseen presence to leap from the shadows. Just then a low growl ripped through the air, echoing from deeper within the tree line. My breath caught as realization hit me hard. Whatever it was closing in. "Run!" the figure shouted, nearly startling me to act. "Leave the box, you must not stay, must not." Heart pounding like a drum, I turned on my heel, racing back toward the house. The growl followed, deeper now, laced with something darker. I could feel it coming from the trees, something waiting to be unleashed. But even as I ran, I couldn't shake the urge to look back. Part of me was terrified, while another part fought to resist the call of the secrets buried in that box. They were so close, yet the danger felt imminent. I stumbled through the yard, the chicken coop looming behind me. I heard whispers trailing in my wake, merging with the shadows, and suddenly I knew I couldn't just leave. I had to confront it, whatever the cost. But as I turned back to the darkness, I realized I wasn't the only one who felt drawn to that box. There were eyes watching me, hungry and relentless. Every instinct screamed for me to bolt forward, but there was no turning back now. I burst through the back door, slamming it shut behind me. The house felt like a sanctuary, but I knew better. The darkness pressed against the windows, alive and waiting. My heart raced, and I leaned against the door, trying to catch my breath. I didn't dare to look outside. Instead, my mind spun with questions. What did the figure mean by your light? What awaited me beyond the trees? But the box loomed large in my thoughts, and the urge to unveil its secrets felt suffocating. A sudden rattle from the chicken coop jolted me back to the present. I whirled around. It sounded like feathers rustling, a frantic flap of wings. I knew it was too late to ignore the strange happenings. I had to check. With every step toward the window, dread clawed at me. I pulled back the curtain, peering through the glass. The coop was shadowed, only the faintest glimmer of moonlight filtering through. I could see movement inside, something shifting in the dark. Then, silence fell. The whispers I thought I heard outside evaporated, leaving only my pounding heart in the stillness. I turned back toward the door, ready to retreat to safety, when a sudden crash echoed from the coop. I spun around again. Something had broken inside. Without thinking, I slipped into my shoes and stepped out the door, the cold air biting at my skin. Each step toward the coop felt heavier, as if the shadows were reaching out to pull me back. My mind reminded me of the figure's warning about what lingered in the night, waiting for the moment to strike. Reaching the coop, I hesitated. Whatever was inside could be anything, a raccoon, maybe, or something more sinister. I took a deep breath and pulled open the door. The hinges creaked loudly, and I peered inside. The chickens were restless, clucking nervously, darting from one corner to another. My gaze scanned the coop, searching for whatever had caused the commotion. That's when I saw it. A small, dark shape huddled in the corner, glinting in the low light. It looked almost like a reflection of something, or someone. My breath caught as fear gripped me. Was it a shadow? Then, with a sudden rush, the shape darted out from the shadows, and I stumbled back. A creature, unlike anything I had seen, skittered past my feet and dashed into the night. It was small but quick, moving toward the woods. My heart raced as I realized it was more than an animal. It was something otherworldly. Without thinking, I followed, driven by adrenaline and a desperate need to uncover the truth. The world outside was dark, but the creature's movement tugged at something deep inside me. It felt like a part of the mystery intertwined with the box. Suddenly, a chorus of growls erupted from the tree line, but this time they were different. They carried an unsettling intelligence. I hesitated, a chill creeping up my spine. Did I want to know what was waiting for me? Then it hit me. The whispers from the coop, the strange figure in the shadows, they were all connected to the box. I had to make a choice. Run back to safety or dive headfirst into whatever dangers awaited me in the darkness. The pulse thrummed in the background, a reminder of the box and its hidden truths. But before I could decide, a voice called out from the trees, soft yet commanding. You must find it before they do. I stepped back, uncertainty gnawing at me. The voice was different now, more of a beckoning than a threat. I looked toward the tree line, straining to see who or what had spoken. Find what? I whispered, unsure if the question was merely for my own sanity. The growls grew louder, breaking through the silence like a warning bell. Panic began to seep in, each rise and fall of my chest echoing in the still night. My gut churned with a mix of fear and curiosity. I was already too deep. I couldn't turn back. Please, I muttered. What do you want me to find? The shadows in the woods shifted, but no answer came. Instead, the small creature I had chased earlier seemed to reappear, almost as if it had paused to wait for me. Its eyes glimmered with a bright intensity, reflecting the moonlight. I felt an odd sense of familiarity settle over me, overwhelming even the fear curling in my belly. I followed it again, moving into the darkness, one hesitant step at a time. The chill wrapped around me, but the creature weaved through the trees, guiding me deeper into the woods. As I walked, the growls morphed into whispers. They were soft, barely audible, almost melodic, but still laced with urgency. I stumbled across branches and roots while trying to keep my eyes on the creature that darted ahead. The underbrush rustled, and I could have sworn I saw something large moving behind the trees. I stopped, heart pounding, and looked back over my shoulder. The faint outline of the coop was far behind. Then I heard it again, a clear voice like before, but now more insistent. Hurry! I gritted my teeth. I could feel the weight of something unknown bearing down on me. I had to understand what all of this meant. My decision made, I pushed forward into the thicket, rustling past brambles and thorns. Eventually, the creature came to a stop and turned to face me. It lingered beside a massive oak tree, one that loomed like a sentinel in the dark. Its branches reached out like fingers, almost beckoning me closer. Instinctively, I sensed something buried in the earth at the foot of the tree. My heart quickened when I noticed the faintest glimmer of something partially obscured by dirt and leaves. The whispers rose again, swirling in the air like a song. Could this be the answer? I knelt down. As my fingers brushed the surface, the whispers escalated, clinging to my skin. I dug deeper, careful yet frantic, tossing the dirt away. That's when I found it. A small, ornate box, identical to the one that had haunted my thoughts. As I pried it from the earth, a low growl reverberated behind me. I froze, dread coursing through my veins. The creature darted back into the shadows as a shape emerged, tall and imposing. My breath hitched. I had found what I was looking for, but now something else had found me. I stood frozen, clutching the ornate box. The moonlight barely illuminated the figure that loomed over me, but the growl sounded again, more threatening this time. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I was paralyzed, part fear, part fascination. The creature stepped closer, revealing a slate-gray face filled with sharp features. Its eyes glowed a faint blue against the darkness. What was it? It seemed both familiar and otherworldly. Every breath I took felt heavier, wrapping around my throat like a vice. "Who are you?" I barely managed to whisper. The creature's growl changed pitch, almost as if it understood me. But instead of responding, it leaned toward me, its gaze fixing on the box in my hands. Suddenly remembering the whispers, I instinctively turned the box around, searching for any markings or clues. It felt warm against my skin, pulsing gently as if it had a life of its own. The growl became an urgent rumble, like thunder rolling across the sky. "What do you want?" I blurted, desperation bleeding into my voice. The creature took another step forward, and I stumbled back, glancing around for an escape route. The shadows stretched and curled around me, closing in. Just then, the ground trembled beneath my feet. I looked down to see the dirt shifting, as if something underneath was waking up. Moments later, a sharp crack echoed through the air. Branches splintered, and a thick vine shot from the base of the oak, whipping toward the creature. It recoiled, letting out a howl that pierced the night, and frozen terror coursed through me. In that chaos I turned and fled, the box clutched tightly under my arm. I felt the wild tug of branches and push against my clothes, but adrenaline rushed through my veins. I sprinted back the way I came, my heart racing, breath coming in ragged gasps. The whispers followed me, echoing in my ears. Protected. Find out. They wrapped around me, mingling with the sound of my footsteps on the forest floor. I stumbled back through the thinning trees, desperate to get away from whatever had just attacked. Suddenly I burst into a clearing. The moonlight spilled over the ground, illuminating a path that led back toward my home. But just as I thought I was safe, the growls returned, louder now. They reverberated off the trees, and I turned just in time to see the creature appear again at the edge of the forest, eyes glimmering like ice. Without thinking, I shouted back, "What do you want from me?" The creature let out a low, resonant howl that sent chills down my spine, and I felt more than saw. Something shift behind me. I turned to face whatever was lurking in the woods, holding the box tight to my chest. That's when everything went suddenly dark. I jolted awake, disoriented and gasping. The darkness was thick, swallowing me whole. I sat up, heart racing, the box still clasped under my arm. I was back in my bedroom, but the shadows seemed alive. They stretched and contorted on the walls, dancing in the faint glow of the moon, filtering through the window. What had happened? The creature, the growls, they felt so real. I blinked and tried to remember every detail, but my memories slipped like sand through my fingers. I shivered and sat still, listening. The house was quiet, too quiet, but something flickered in the air, a whisper of that guttural sound. My mind raced. Maybe it was just a dream, but then I felt it, warmth emanating from the box. I glanced down and saw the intricate carvings shimmering faintly. The whispers returned, echoing in my mind. Protected. Find out. I slid out of bed and set the box carefully on the desk. A pull in my gut ignited my curiosity. Crouching low, I examined it closely. The carvings depicted figures intertwined with vines, their expressions twisted in agony or ecstasy. I couldn't tell. I traced my fingers over the patterns, and they tingled under my touch. Was it alive? What had I awakened outside? My thoughts darted to the creature. My heart sank. I felt a connection, but I didn't understand it. My eyes darted back to the window. Was it out there? I tiptoed over to peer through the glass, scanning the yard and the street beyond. No sign of movement, just the stillness of night. Maybe it had only been a trick of the moonlight. But the fragile peace didn't last. A faint thud broke the silence, followed by the creaking sound of a door swinging on its hinges, a sound I had not made. The hairs on my neck stood up. I had locked the back door. At least, I thought I did. I turned on my heel, prepared to run, but the whispers returned, louder now, and I felt the box tugging at me again, insistent and demanding. Protect it. I swallowed hard. I could either hide under the bed or confront whatever awaited me. I clenched my fists and edged toward the door. The creaking sound came again, followed by a low, familiar growl that curled into the depths of my stomach. I reached for the doorknob, feeling its coldness seep into my palm, and then hesitated. What if it was the creature, or something worse? That's when I noticed a shadow flicker across the hallway, something too soft to be the moonlight. With a swift breath, I yanked open the door. To my shock, I found the hallway empty, but there, in the middle of the floor, lay a single feather, slate gray like the creature. I picked it up, feeling its odd warmth against my skin. This couldn't be good. I looked back toward my bedroom as my heart pounded. When I turned to leave, the whispers intensified, urging me to look closer, to understand. But understanding what? Then came the unmistakable sound. A growl, low and steady, rising from the darkness. I froze, clutching the feather in one hand and peering into the night. I had to find out what was happening before it consumed me entirely. The growl reverberated through the hallway, deep and primal, sending a cascade of chills down my spine. My thoughts raced. Was I truly alone? I gripped the feather tightly, its warmth contrasting sharply with the cold air around me. I felt a pull toward the box still resting on my desk, but my instincts screamed at me to step back, to run away from whatever lurked in the dark. But confrontation seemed inevitable. I steeled myself and ventured further into the hallway. The walls loomed like silent sentinels, shadows flickering in their corners. I half expected the creature to pounce from the darkness, its slate-gray form darting at me from the shadows. Instead, silence returned, thick and oppressive, but I felt the energy shifting. There was something waiting just beyond my perception. The whispers intensified, now echoing with urgency. Find the light, before it finds you. I took a deep breath and focused on the chilling words. As I listened, my grip on the feather tightened, and instinctively my gaze flicked back toward the box. The air crackled with electricity as I stepped back into my room. The box throbbed, its intricate patterns shimmering under the dim moonlight. My heart raced and I moved closer, entranced yet wary. What secrets lay within? What fate awaited me behind its lid? The whispers promised answers and more questions alike, nudging me closer. Swallowing my fear, I felt compelled to open it, to meet whatever truth it held. My fingertips grazed the latch, and with a soft click, the lid creaked open. The room brightened with a warm glow that pulsed from within the box, illuminating my face. I gasped, leaning closer. Inside lay a collection of small objects, fragments of memories I realized. A polished stone, a worn-out locket, old coins. Each item vibrated with an energy that tied the past to this present moment. I reached for the locket, brushing my thumb over its worn surface. Vivid images flashed in my mind, faces I didn't recognize but felt strangely familiar. They were the same faces from the photographs I'd stumbled upon in the crate at the Coop. My heart raced in sync with the pulsing light, the box transforming from a vessel of danger to a beacon of lost stories. But the growls began again, deeper this time and closer. A shiver ran down my spine. Something was drawing nearer, an unseen force with dark intent. I tore my gaze from the contents of the box and glanced at my window, the shadows twisting and throbbing just beyond the glass. "Leave," the whispers warned, urgent and desperate. "It is coming for you." I slammed the lid shut, the light flickering out instantly, shrouding the room in darkness once more. The room felt cold as the growls echoed loudly, making the walls tremble. They seemed hungry, promising chaos. In a panic, I rushed to the window. The world outside was chaos, shadows melded together, moving like wisps of smoke, and then... there it was again. The creature, spectral and otherworldly, stood just beyond the edge of the yard, staring with its icy blue eyes, now filled with urgency, its form writhing as if struggling against the veil separating our realms. It let out a howl, a sound that reflected desperate warning. "What do you want?" I yelled, but the answer was lost in the rising growls. They vibrated against the house, filling every corner, thrumming against my very bones, demanding I act. I looked back at the box. A frantic decision rattled me. What if the objects inside could hold the key to confronting the threat? Whatever it was, I had to use the past to shield my future. "Protect it," I murmured, trying to remember the glow and the energy I felt when the box was open. I glanced at the feather in my hand, and then back to the box. I could feel the weight of the entities converging upon me, darkness closing in. I grabbed the locket from inside the box and pressed it tightly in my palm. Then I flung the window open wide, my heart clawing its way up my throat. The cold air rushed in, mingling with the shadows that swirled menacingly. I refused to back down, I shouted into the night. The creature lifted its head as if sensing my defiance. The howling grew louder and I felt the whispering voices merge with the growls. "Find the light," they urged again. But deeper yet I felt an understanding blooming, a fragile alliance with the unseen forces. "Show me then!" I yelled into the darkness. "Help me!" With a sudden surge I threw the feather toward the creature. It arced through the air, glinting in the moonlight before landing at the creature's feet. Instantly, the whispers crescendoed, swirling the air around me and igniting the energies linked to the artifacts. The ground trembled once more, and a brilliant light erupted from the box, illuminating the yard, pushing the shadows back. Time slowed as the murmur of darkness receded against the warmth. The creature's eyes glowed brighter as the energies fused, wood and earth resonating, a force birthed from long-hidden truths. It's here that everything converged. The past, the present, and whatever lay beneath the surface of the earth, as whispers turned to words. The creature stepped forward, glowing and ethereal, locking eyes with me as if to say it had been waiting for this moment, for someone to choose the light over the darkness. Then the whispers laid bare the choice, the need for an anchor in that chaotic night. Each object, each piece of history calling to me, reminding me that knowledge could illuminate even the darkest corners of existence. The darkness lingered at the edges, thrumming with potential. What had I unleashed? The owner of the empty house, the neighbors who had whispered legends, each portal to understanding remained locked. Yet I knew that while tonight's threat had waned, echoes of the past would persist. I would carry this weight, a guardian of buried truths against the darkness gathering, poised at the edges of my reality, waiting for the moment to return. I stood there, box in hand, the warmth of the creature's presence instilling in me a newfound certainty. I could never truly escape. The shadows may still flicker outside my window, but in learning to embrace the light, perhaps I could keep the darkness at bay. For a little while longer at least. And so, with the box pulsing gently in my hand, I felt the call resonate deeply within me, a binding tether, not quite answers but a promise of protectors, hidden truths, and the eternal struggle against shadows that knew too much. A balance, always seeking to tip one way or the other, leaving me to navigate the turbulent tides of what had become my new life. I wasn't sure what lay ahead, but I was certain of one thing. I would face it, whatever it may be. And I was ready to tell the story, even if the ending remained unwritten.